The air in the Senate chamber was thick with the acidic tang of political theater. A dozen cameras blinked like hungry eyes, their red lights a constant accusing glow. This wasn't a hearing. It was a performance, a grand, exhausting opera of accusations and counter-accusations. At the center of it all sat Senator Gideon Thorne, a figure of stoic integrity in a sea of performative outrage. His presence was a stark contrast to the chaos, not just because of his moral compass, but because he was blind. He couldn't see the flashing cameras or the venomous glares, but he felt the tension like a physical weight, a symphony of discord. And then he arrived. Not through the main doors, but seemingly out of nowhere, a ghost from a monochrome past. The scuffed shoes, the baggy trousers, the too-tight jacket, the toothbrush mustache, it was an apparition. Charles Chaplin, the little tramp, standing silently in the back of the room. He was a silent anachronism in a world screaming for attention, a black and white figure in a full-color spectacle. Most people didn't even notice him, their eyes glued to the dramatic monologues and theatrical arguments. But Senator Thorne felt a shift, a subtle change in the air pressure, a strange absence of noise that was louder than any sound. Chaplin, his face a mask of sorrowful wisdom, watched the proceedings. The tramp's eyes, famous for their ability to convey 1,000 emotions, were not mischievous or clownish. They were old, haunted by a suffering that went beyond a simple slapstick gag. He saw the lies, the greed, the pain, a familiar darkness he had fought with humor for a lifetime. He was a king in a kingdom of shadows, powerful in his art but emotionally broken, a man who had made the world laugh while his own soul wept. He felt a profound, aching loneliness. His eyes fell upon her. She was a cleaning lady, a woman so socially invisible she was almost a part of the woodwork. She moved with a practiced, resigned grace, wiping down tables, her face a canvas of quiet servitude. Chaplin saw what no one else did. As she worked, her movements were not rote. They were a dance, a silent, mesmerizing choreography of hope and grief. Her broom was a partner, her dustcloth a fluttering silk ribbon. It was a dance of exquisite, unadulterated suffering, a pantomime of silent despair. And in a moment that defied all logic, as she passed a gleaming brass railing, her hand left a shimmering trail of pure, liquid gold. A brief, impossible miracle that only Chaplin witnessed. His heart, long calcified by the world's cruelty, shuddered. The tramp's suffering, his lifelong pursuit of a joy he couldn't grasp, was suddenly, impossibly, reflected back at him in a silent golden dance. The woman's simple, invisible routine held a secret, a power, a truth that could not exist. What did the tramp see that no one else could? And how did a woman invisible to the world hold the key to Chaplin's deepest truth? Subscribe and find out. Chaplin's silent contemplation shattered. His face, once serene, contorted into a mask of silent fury. His famous pantomime, usually a source of gentle comedy, became a weapon of pure, unadulterated rage. His tiny moustache seemed to bristle as he jabbed his finger at the cacophony of the hearing, his gestures a furious ballet of incredulity and disgust. He mimed a man drowning in a sea of lies, his face a silent scream against the absurdity. He pointed a trembling finger at the woman, demanding an explanation from a figure who seemed to have no voice. His rage was not against her, but against the impossible truth she represented, a truth that dared to suggest that hope could exist in a world so utterly broken. The cleaning woman, in her silence, didn't flinch. She simply continued her quiet dance, her movements imbued with a serene patience that was the perfect counterpoint to his fury. She didn't argue or explain. She simply was. The dust cloth became a whisper of peace, the broom a slow, steady rhythm that seemed to calm the very air. She was the immovable force to his unyielding object, a silent beacon of wisdom against his tempestuous outburst. Suddenly, a quiet, melodic sound broke through the room's tension. It was Senator Thorne, his head slightly cocked, as if listening to something no one else could hear, whistling a simple, beautiful tune. It was a mournful old melody, a song that Chaplin knew from the streets of his youth. The senator, blind to the physical chaos, had felt Chaplin's spiritual turmoil and was reaching out in the only way he knew how, through a shared language of sound. He couldn't see Chaplin, but he could feel him, his inner pain vibrating in the room. Chaplin's silent rage faltered. The senator's melody was an invitation, a bridge. He was faced with a choice: remain in his safe, familiar world of comedic sorrow, or step onto the bridge, into the impossible. The tension in the room, already at a breaking point from the political drama, was now a spiritual crucible. The cleaning woman's dance, the senator's melody, they were a siren song, pulling him toward a healing he had always denied himself. Chaplin is about to make a choice that could change not only his existence, but the fate of a world that has lost its way. The best is yet to come. Chaplin's resistance finally broke. He looked at the cleaning woman, truly looked at her. He saw not a servant, but a mirror. He saw the same silent struggle he had spent a lifetime portraying. With a trembling hand, he offered her his own signature rose, a gesture of silent surrender. She took it not as a gift, but as an exchange. She led him away from the shouting and the flashing lights into a quiet, forgotten corridor of the Capitol. It was here in the cold, sterile hallway that she began to teach him. She didn't teach him grand ballroom steps or complicated jigs. She taught him the dance of suffering. She taught him to dance with his old pains, the hunger, the poverty, the shame of his mother's illness, the bitterness of his exile. Her movements were slow, deliberate, each step an acceptance of a wound. She showed him how the pain, when embraced, could be transformed into grace. Chaplin, the master of physical comedy, stumbled at first, his body stiff, his heart still guarded. But with each movement the weight lifted. He danced with the ghost of his childhood, with the spectre of his political exile, with the sorrow of a world that had forgotten how to laugh. The climax was an emotional tsunami. She led him in a final, heartbreaking turn, and as he spun, the world around him melted away. He saw his own life in a new light. His art wasn't about making people forget their pain. It was about showing them how to find beauty in it. His slapstick was the dance of a man who refused to be beaten by a cruel world. The bowler hat and cane weren't props. They were the tools of a magician who could turn sorrow into a spectacle of hope. The revelation struck him with the force of a thunderclap, What he had spent a lifetime chasing, fame, adoration, a feeling of belonging, was all a distraction. The true treasure wasn't in the applause, but in the shared humanity, the silent, invisible connection between one heart and another. Chaplin, a man transformed, walked back into the chamber. He no longer needed to perform. He didn't need to rage. He simply stood, a beacon of silent grace. The chaos of the hearing, once deafening, seemed to quiet in his presence. Senator Thorne, though blind, smiled. He had felt the shift, the peaceful resonance of a soul at rest. The cleaning woman returned to her work. She wasn't just cleaning anymore. She was weaving a tapestry of quiet dignity. As she passed Chaplin, she slipped a small folded piece of paper into his hand. It was a single, simple message, the only words she had spoken in this impossible story. The stage isn't the world, it's just a mirror. The true show is in the stillness between the acts. Chaplin unfolded the note, read it, and a single tear of profound understanding tracked a line through his makeup. He smiled, not with the mischievous grin of the tramp, but with the serene joy of a man who had finally found home. The hearing ended, the politicians left, the cameras shut off, but the silent truth lingered. Chaplin, the master of silent film, had shown them all that the most powerful message isn't spoken, but felt. It's not in the noise, but in the silence. It's not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet acts of humanity. What part of the story touched you the most? And do you believe that art can still heal a broken world? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more stories that defy the impossible.